My name is Anthony Cook. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a pastor, I'm a writer. My life has not been a fairy tale, but it's also not been a tragedy. I've seen a lot and I've done a lot, but I'm not done yet. Everything has led me here.
But I'll stay patient for you. I'll stay patient for you.
Look, on my way to the bank, I'm hoping that the check don't bounce. In this game, the clock run and it ain't time out. So I got 2 arms. I gave you my last, so ain't nothing I can do for him. If I can't do nothing, tell my brother I'ma root for him.
Hey, we here, live. Everything led me here, episode 2. And this is a very special episode. I'm sitting here with a very special man and person in my life. We share the same name.
Yep.
So that's been very big, and just by itself, just having the same name and looking up to you all these years. But for those who don't know who I'm talking about Pastor Anthony Cook. Welcome to the show. Everything led me here, episode 2.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad to be here. I've been looking forward. This has been a long time coming.
Yes.
Long time coming.
Yes, it has.
And so I'm glad to have the opportunity, and thankful for you lending your platform.
Yes, sir. Definitely. I've looked forward to this conversation for probably over 30 years. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I've known you, I've watched you, I've been around you my whole life, but we've never had the opportunity to really sit down and just us. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And this is a conversation that's very important to me and very special to me, and I'm just happy to be able to be here and share it with the world, share this conversation with the world.
Yeah, same here.
With that being said, how you feeling, man?
I'm good. Like I said, been looking forward to this for a minute. Mostly because it's you, right?
Yeah.
You say, I've known you from day one.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Known you from day one. Remember your dad bringing you down to Auburn when we were in school down there, and you were just barely able to walk, right?
Yeah.
And so those, from day one, I've known you, and what makes this special for me is knowing how you're wired, right? You're thoughtful, you're intelligent, you got your act together, you see the world as it is, but you also see the world as it could be.
Yeah.
And just the insight that you bring to the table is something that I want to enhance, participate in, and encourage as much as possible.
Definitely,
So,
definitely.
Yeah, this is good for me, man. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. How's your 2023 been? The year 2023.
Yeah, it's been good. So I'm talking personal, mm-hmm. right? I've had a good 2023, mostly because my health has been good. My relationships have been good. I've had the opportunity to grow in my walk with Christ, and had the opportunity to share my faith with others, many others. And those are sort of the hallmarks of my life at this stage in life, right? But I also have to, kind of be transparent about something. Listen, you might know this about me already, but I'm a big comic books person, right? Mm-hmm. I love reading comic books. And if you watch the comic book movies, almost all of them talk about different timelines. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard that before, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the different timelines, I feel like since COVID, it's like we're on a different timeline. It's like, we were on a track and on a pace and headed towards a destination, and COVID came And it's like we're on a different timeline now. It's like a whole different existence almost, right? And things just seem like, it's like the timeline we were on. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton never ran for president.
Yeah.
And there was like some kind of, normal progression after Barack Obama that made sense.
Yeah.
We're not in that place. We're in a different timeline. The politics is crazy. The interactions we have with each other is crazy.
Different.
The international community is crazy. I mean, everything just seems out of whack and funky and odd and strange. And it just feels like a whole different timeline. And I know some people might, that dude off his rocker, right? Yeah. But,
No, you speaking facts, though.
Right. I mean, I know that's not a real thing, right? I'm not crazy, but I'm just saying it just feels like we have somehow slipped off of the course we were on as not just as a country, but as people, period. Definitely. And so I'm navigating life with that kind of in the background, but it's not something that I let consume me or anything like that. But it just this strangeness when you ask about 2023, that's kind of an undercurrent of things. But for me personally, I'm enjoying life, man.
Speaking of 2020, that was a crazy time period. And a lot of, adults or people older than me, that's not the first time we've been through something like that, is it?
Well,
because it was like, that was a brick wall for us. I never would have imagined something like that.
So me neither, right? They call it a 100-year pandemic because the last time we had something like that was like 100 years ago with the flu.
Okay.
So the flu was the same way, and I actually went back and looked up some research and stuff on it. Same exact things were going on. Like, how we had this whole, the country was split between get vaccinated versus don't get vaccinated.
Yep.
Same thing back in the 20s when the flu hit.
Yeah.
So it was that same kind of division that was happening in this country specifically, but in the world in general.
Yeah.
It was just interesting to see how those things were repeating themselves and how people, just the human nature was coming out of people that way in this divisive way. Right?
And in your mind, is stuff like that planned by government or, the big conspiracy? That type of stuff is planned like that?
Right. I hear you. So I'm kind of this mixed opinion. I try not to be a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah,
right?
Me too. I used to love it, but then after so long, it was like, come on now, everything is not a conspiracy.
Exactly. Right. So I try to deal with what's in front of me and what I can see and what I can prove, what I can put my hands on, what I can research, what I can see in the reporting from people who I consider to be legitimate news people who will go and report, ask the questions, and give you information. I try to take those things at face value. But on the other hand, in a small way, in a lesser degree, I try not to be surprised by anything. Yeah. Right. Yeah. If you tell me that, George W. Bush was an alien and or a robot or something, and
that's crazy. I never knew if you actually fed into that type of stuff. Because I know you research, what I'm saying? You read. So I know you run across that type of stuff, and how do you take it in?
Yeah. And so for me, what I try to live my life by are the things that I see are being reported. A lot of people I've heard, conspiracy theories about, COVID was planned. The government released it on us to see how much we would conform and comply. Yep. Right. And so now that was the test run. And so in a few years, they go do the real thing and make us get in line and do X, Y, Z. Yeah. And the way I look at it is there are a lot of people who didn't conform. Right.
I'm one of them.
So my point is has the government come after you? No. Right. You know what I'm saying? No. And for those who did conform, in terms of, it was me functioning and operating off of the information I was receiving from the people that I have trusted and continue to trust, right? So when you tell me we're sitting here across from each other, we're within 6 feet of each other, one of us has COVID, I'm going to try to conduct myself in a way to protect you and me.
Definitely.
Because I love you and I don't want to harm you.
Definitely.
If putting on a mask is going to keep me from transmitting COVID to you or keep me from receiving COVID from you, who's hurt?
Yeah. And I agree with the mask.
That's kind of how I respond to it. Then when it came out with the vaccine, and I understand
that's different.
yeah. So again, I've had 3, maybe 4 of the vaccinations, right?
Okay.
Because I grew up having to have a blue form, right? Mm-hmm. Blue form is just, you can't go to school without your blue form being filled out. That is nothing but vaccinations. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be vaccinated to even go to school.
Okay.
So what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things you're vaccinated against before you even start school. Mm-hmm. So I know about that, right? Then with this vaccination, I understand the idea behind, well, it's untested, it's new, it came out of nowhere. Well, actually, COVID is just a respiratory disease. And they've been researching respiratory disease for decades, trying to develop a vaccine for it, right? And so with this one, they just dropped everything and said, let's focus on this specific respiratory condition and develop a vaccine that will address it specifically.
Right.
And so that's what they did. And so when they came out with the vaccine, there were a couple versions that had some issues. I avoided those, right? The one that seemed to never have any real issues was the Moderna. And so I was specific about making sure I got that one. I called my mom, your grandmother, and told her, don't get the others, because they've reported about some issues with those. Get the Moderna. So I got the Moderna. I've had I think 4 upgrades to the vaccination. Same thing happens with the flu. We get a flu shot every year, right?
My thing is, what about the people that didn't get that information like you did? You know what I'm saying? That took those bad vaccines. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you tell them to trust the government at this point, or trust the news, or what people telling you to do? Like,
so again, we are all responsible for educating ourselves, and we're all responsible for what we do with that information, right? Right. So if you choose not to be vaccinated, then what you're saying is, I'm going to take my chances with a virus that we've seen kill more people than we've seen kill anything else kill people in recent history, right? So my decision with my household was, I love you too much to roll the dice with the disease. Yeah. I'm going to roll the dice with the vaccine, right? Because we haven't seen, hundreds of thousands of people dying from the vaccine, right? We've seen a handful of people get sick from it, but we haven't seen people dying from it, right? Now, I will say this. I had side effects from the vaccine. Here's the side effect. And I didn't realize it the first time. I took the vaccine, and that night, I think it was that night or either the next day, I got a headache, like a migraine type headache. It lasted for about 4 hours. Went away, never had it again. So I never connected it with the shot until I got the booster shot. And when I got the booster shot, same thing happened. I got a migraine. It lasted about 4 hours, went away, nothing else. And so I didn't have any real negative impacts from taking the vaccine, right? And the upside to it is, this is another thing that's frustrating about it, because people were saying, wait a minute, I thought if you got the vaccine, you weren't never supposed to get COVID, right? Well, I actually did get COVID. Wow. I got COVID, and I tested positive for it on a Sunday.
At that moment, were you mad that you got the vaccine?
No.
I would have been livid.
No, here's why, right? It's because I understand how vaccines work because I've taken the flu shot my whole life. So you can take the flu shot your whole life. They have to change it because the variants of the flu, it changes every year, right? Yeah. So you take the shot, you get vaccinated against the flu, but it's not a guarantee that you won't get the flu.
Right.
So the same thing, just logically,
Yeah.
right? Just me, little old aunt from Munford,
Yeah.
understanding that if I get this vaccine, what it's supposed to do is keep me from getting as sick if I get COVID, right?
Okay.
And so when I got sick with COVID, I got diagnosed with it. I tested positive. I think it was a Monday. By Tuesday, I was testing negative for it. It was just
So it came and went pretty quick. Yeah.
and I had almost no symptoms. And so I'm thankful for the vaccine because it could have been much worse. There is a guy I know who I think he was a year older than me, healthy, played basketball, stayed in shape. He got COVID on a Monday. By Friday, he was dead. Wow. Right. That's what I'm saying. And that was before they had a vaccine, right?
Oh, okay.
That was before they had the vaccine.
Okay.
Because it took like a year before they got the vaccine in place. My point, though, is once they got a vaccine, to me, it was crazy not to take it.
Yeah.
Because you're rolling the dice with your life.
And it's crazy just that your experience, how your experiences and just what you see with your own eyes affect your decisions. Because the whole time I'm like the complete opposite. Like, you know, somebody who's actually died and got it. But me, I didn't know nobody who even had it. So
And a
I'm
lot of
sitting
people
back
didn't.
like, man, this ain't real. You know, that's feeding into the conspiracy side because I don't actually know nobody.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I could see like what you're saying. Like after seeing that, it's crazy not to get it.
Exactly.
So,
The thing, because it became such a divisive topic, I tried not to like enforce my thoughts on people.
Right.
Even at church, where I got people who trust every word that come out of my mouth. What I told them is there's a vaccine available. Talk to your doctor about whether you should take it or not. Right. But in this space, we're going to do what we can to protect each other. And so the way we do that is by social distancing. If you feel sick, don't come. Watch online. Right. And so the whole idea about it was behaving myself in a way that demonstrated love toward others. That was the point.
And that's a huge responsibility in your shoes when you go into a church with this full of old people, full of kids. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta make the responsible decision for everybody, pretty much. So,
You're trying to, right? And again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, and so I'm relying on the information that I get. We had one person who died from COVID who was attending our church, but she had not been to our church the whole time during the pandemic, so she didn't get it from being at church. Right? We just happened to know somebody who was a part of the church who died from COVID, and in retrospect, she was somebody who, and I talked to her on the phone, and she was saying, "Pastor, I'm sorry, but my family had told me not to get vaccinated, but as soon as I get out of here, I'm gonna get the vaccine." Wow! And she never got out. Never got out the hospital. And so, you know, again, everybody has to make their own personal decisions. I wouldn't try and force those things on anybody, but we have to gather information. We have to do our own research, and then we have to make decisions based on what we've found out, what we've discovered. Yeah, that's how I treated it.
2020 was a crazy year.
It was. Yeah.
Like you said, we still feeling the effects on it right now, but man, we still pushing forward. Well, with all that said, what I wanted to do with this conversation is I wanted to take us back to your childhood. Like, what was the earliest times you can remember of your childhood? Like the most impressionable times, the earliest memories.
Yeah. So my earliest memories were not growing up, just starting out in the house where your grandmother lives now, your grandmother Ruth. That house is where I was brought home from the hospital to that house.
Wow.
And we did not have running water in that house. The bathroom that you see in that house was not there. It was just 4 walls and a 5-gallon bucket.
Wow.
That was the bathroom. We had the 2 bedrooms, like it still is, 2 bedrooms. My mom and dad slept in the 1 bedroom. Me and your dad slept in the other bedroom.
Yeah.
We had twin beds that were next to each other.
And you like what, 4 years older than my dad?
No, we're a year apart.
Oh, 1 year. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Because I was gonna ask you, do you remember being the only child? But I know you don't if y'all that close.
No. And I remember your granddaddy Albert. When I was a knee baby, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, I used to suck my thumb. I would sit in his lap and suck my thumb and play in his hair.
Yeah.
Just a baby, right?
Yeah.
I remember spankings in that house, and your granddaddy Albert did not play, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember he would get his belt and he would snatch us up by the ankle. So you can't run. Ain't no running.
Yeah.
And he whip us.
Hey, no. You talking about it ain't no running. When I talk to grandma, that's one of the most infamous things you was known for was running.
That's a different story. That was after they were divorced, right? Once they got divorced, I think I was 5 or 6, something like that.
That was pretty early.
Pretty early, yeah. And my mom moved back in with my grandmother, your great grandmother, and we were living in what we call the old house.
Yeah.
We moved into the room. There was a front room and a back room. The front room is where your grandmother stayed. There was a bed there, and then there was a bed this way, and that's where your grandmother slept. Right, so it was me and your great grandmother in one bed, and my mom and your dad in the other bed. So there was 4 of us in that room. Then in the other room was my Aunt Fanny, her husband James, and their 2 sons, James III and Kente. Yeah. But so it was basically 2 families living in a 2-bedroom house.
Wow.
Right? House.
Did you feel the effects of that? Did it feel overcrowded as a child?
No, it was family.
It was family. Yeah.
Right? And you didn't know that it wasn't
normal.
It wasn't the norm.
Yeah.
Right? It was just life.
Yeah.
It was just life. Right. And so that was the house that we spent a lot of our childhood in, is that old house. And I keep calling it the old house because it's not there anymore. Right.
Yeah.
It was a 2-bedroom house, basically a box. It wasn't a big house or anything like that. Yeah. I tell people all the time, we didn't have a lot. There was a walnut tree a big walnut tree right beside the house. The walnuts that fell off that tree is what we used for baseballs. We would play with those. And the house was so old, because I think the house was old when my grandmother grew up in it. We would pull wooden planks off the side of the house, and that would be our bat. And so we played baseball with a plank and a walnut.
Hey, I bet those were some of the best times, man. That's how it be. Like, I go back to my childhood, like when we had the smallest amount of anything, but those were the funnest times, man.
Well, what I appreciate is our parents didn't let us feel sorry for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't tell us that we didn't have whatever everybody else had. They told us to be thankful for what we do have.
And that's big. That's
big.
huge. Yeah.
Right.
And the fact that you could say, like, I didn't even know that, it wasn't normal for all of us. Like, it was family.
That's
like,
right.
That's huge.
Right. When I first went to school, I remember the first day. We had been there a while, and the teacher said, "Okay, we're going to take a restroom break."
Yeah.
I thought we were going to a different room to rest.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have running water. We didn't have a bathroom.
That's crazy.
Right? Yeah. So I thought we were going to a room to rest.
Yeah.
And then we got in the line and went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Hey, so what's up with these stories about you jumping off the house, man?
Yeah. So you talked about the running part, right? So after my folks divorced and we were living with my grandmother, my mom became the main disciplinarian. And this was back in the days when you beat your kids. I say beat your kids jokingly. I mean, you strongly disciplined. You whipped your kids, right? Back in those days. And they would use belts. They would use switches.
Hey, let's call it what it is, Uncle. It was beating.
It was a beating.
Yeah.
But it wasn't abuse. It wasn't abuse.
Even now today, you don't think that's abuse?
No, no.
Would you do that to your grandkids today?
So I will spank my grandkids,
Yes.
but I wouldn't do what they did just because I just don't have it in me.
That's how you know it was abuse.
No. Here's what I'll tell you, man. When you look at the streets today and you look at these guys who have no clue what a consequence is for their actions, and they'll take out a gun and take a life like it means nothing, or they'll abuse girls and treat them like dogs or treat them like they're next to nothing, slap them around. The reason they act like that is because they've never had consequences for their actions. And so when we were coming up, those whippings, our parents didn't whip us. They didn't whip us half as much as what we deserved to get. Not half. I know I could sit here and rattle off 10, 15 things I should have got a whipping for, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But the whippings I did get taught me that there are consequences for my actions. Mm-hmm. There are consequences for the way you talk to people. There's consequences for disrespecting authority. There's consequences for not respecting other people as being image bearers, bearers of God's image. Every single person was created in the image of God and deserves to be treated with decency and respect.
Right.
Consequences of not treating people like that is what helps you learn to do it consistently, right? And so, no, it wasn't abuse. It was lessons, right? Now, there are a lot of philosophies about how to teach those lessons.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is that mine stuck, right?
Yeah.
Those lessons were real, and they didn't kill me. And that's exactly what the Bible says. It says not to spare the rod, it won't destroy the child, right? You spank them, you give them a good whipping, you let them know that there's a difference between right and wrong, and there's a difference between obedience and disobedience. And there's going to be consequences for doing the wrong thing and for disobeying.
Yeah.
You teach them that, and it's not going to kill them. Now, again, there is such a thing as abuse.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as really, and I've seen some horrible cases of it.
And it's a thin line too. Like,
well, it's a thin line. Here's the difference, right? Is I don't take my anger out on my child.
Right.
That's not what we're supposed to do.
Did you ever feel like your mom was taking out her anger on you?
No.
Even as a child? Because I know, like, getting a whooping as a child, you feel like they hate your guts. Like, man, why she hate me so much, man? She trying to kill me. Like,
here's the thing, and this is why I ran, right? Because you heard the stories about me running.
Yeah.
Right? Every single whooping I got, I know I earned it. I earned it, and I deserved it, which is why I take off running. If I wasn't guilty, I'd have stood there and been like, why y'all hitting me? Why y'all whipping me?
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case. I knew I had done wrong. I knew I had disobeyed. I had been bad. And so I'd take off running because I knew it was time to pay the piper.
Yeah.
Right? You might not know this, but we had an older cousin. You know Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Dee Dee had an older brother. His name is Clarence, but we called him Junior because he was Clarence Jr. We called him June.
Yeah.
I was probably 10, 11, something like that when he died, and he was like 19, so he was a lot older than us. Well, our parents would call June to come and hold us when it was time to get a whipping. Yeah, he would be the one that hold us when we get whippings, right? Oh, and so that's another reason that I would run and I would climb trees. He couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
right? He like y'all got to get about that tree. I can't get about that tree.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was the reason I would run and I would climb trees and stuff and try to get away from getting a whipping. But the reason is because I knew I earned it. I knew I deserved it. And, it was the consequences for my actions. Yeah. And I knew that even then as a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So today, that's even more drilled into me as a person, right?
Yeah.
I own my mistakes. When I do something that's out of line or I make, a bad decision, I'm the first person to say that's my bad.
Yeah.
I messed that up. Let me see how I can fix it. Right. I own it. And that's a part of being, not just being a man, it's definitely a part of being a man, but it's part of being a decent human being.
Right.
It's owning your own mistakes and you can't make things better if you don't admit that you got things wrong.
Right.
And so those whippings taught me that, right?
At a young age.
Yeah, at a young age.
So you spoke on the time before your parents got divorced and the way that y'all life changed and having to move. Like, do you remember how that made you feel? Like the effects of them splitting up? Like, did you know what was going on, or like, I mean,
yeah, not really. I mean, I don't know I didn't know what was going on in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right? They shielded us from that, but I knew that I'm living with my grandmother now, and my mom is here, and
my dad
comes to visit us. What was also a dynamic of all of that is my dad. My mom had a restraining order against my dad because my dad couldn't come to the house.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So he would come to pick us up, and he'd park at the neighbor's house up the street, and we'd have to walk from our house up to the neighbor's house to get in the car with him.
Yeah.
And so, at the time, you don't really understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You just know that, that's my dad up there.
Yeah,
I'm going to go
yeah.
see my dad. I'm going to get in the car with my dad, and he's going to take us home with him. We're going to spend the weekend with him. And,
we coming back.
That's right. Now, what I will say, regardless of whatever was going on in their relationship, as a husband, never impacted him as a dad. He was always a good dad. He always wanted to spend time with us. He'd come and pick us up on the weekends. When he moved to Cleveland, he'd come and get us, and we'd go with him and spend the whole summer with him, right? And he would have been perfectly fine if we had moved up there. My mom wasn't having that, right?
Yeah.
But my point is that he was always a good dad. I can't remember a time, growing up where there was something big going on in my life where he wasn't showing up, even coming all the way from Cleveland to be there for it.
So you never asked questions? Like, you ain't never, as a child, like, why is it like this?
No,
like,
because when it happened, you got to remember, I'm 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Right. And what you do is you learn to accept whatever the reality is on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. And you say,
and it seems like we do that the best when we kids. Like, it's like we adapt to anything. Just keep it moving.
Kids are resilient. And so what you do is you accept that I'm in the house with my grandmother now. My mom is still here. I'm still, getting all my needs met. And I still got to get up and go to school. And, those things maintained a sense of normalcy. Right. But there was the whole issue with, my dad's coming to pick me up. I go spend time with my dad. I come back and my mom and dad are not together.
Yeah.
I cannot say that had a super negative impact on me because I'm still getting loved by both of my parents.
Right.
Just not under the same roof.
Right.
So I won't, whatever shortcomings or misgivings I had throughout my childhood, I would not blame it on the divorce. Right. Okay. So, yeah.
So school, what was school like in Montfort?
Yeah. It was interesting in that I was never like what I would consider super popular or anything like that as a kid. I was quiet. I was shy. I wasn't usually going to talk to people unless they talked to me. The first kid I met on the first day of school, and they didn't have kindergarten, we had preschool. Yeah. And it was a kid named Kenneth Mitchell. We're still friends today.
No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He lives out in Texas. We'll shoot each other messages from time to time. He's the one who introduced me to comic books. I hadn't even seen a comic book before. Yeah. And he'd come and he'd have stacks of them, and he started sharing them, and I started getting into it and started buying my own and all that. And that's what got me into writing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was reading comic books. And so then I started writing poems and short stories and songs. And
so around what grade or what age?
I'm talking.
Start writing.
Yeah, I'm talking 7, 8 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, you won't remember your great grandmother's sister. Your great grandmother Orabice had a sister named Mary, and so my Aunt Mary actually moved in with my grandmother. And so it was all of us living in one house. My Aunt Mary, after her husband died, she moved in with my grandmother for a while. And I remember her birthday came up one year and I sat down and wrote something for her. And it was like a tribute to her and just saying how much, we loved her and how much she meant to us. And I gave it to her and she sat down and started reading it and tears started dropping onto the paper.
Wow.
I'm like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
That is what struck the chord in me that said, words have power. My words did that for her.
Wow.
And so I started writing all the time. I'm writing and I'm writing songs. I'm doing poems. I'm doing short stories. I used to have a notebook full of all the stuff I had been writing, and I let it get out of my hands, and I never got it back. And so, but the thing is that's what generated, that love, that passion for the power of words, and trying to wield that power in a way that reached into people's hearts. That's what writing was always about for me. And then going to college and taking the long way toward majoring in journalism and becoming a newspaper person and understanding through my studies in college that writing the truth is more powerful than fiction, more powerful than poems and things that you conjure up. Writing the truth empowers people to make decisions about their own lives. And so that's what journalism does. That's why I fell in love with newspapers. And I did that for 26 years because I just had this real, and still do have a real appreciation for what was intended when the country was founded. And they said, we got, government, and we have the judicial system, and we have law enforcement, but we need somebody who can hold all of them accountable. And that's what newspapers are supposed to do. And we don't have guns.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have subpoena power. All we have is the power of the pen to write the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's fascinating to me.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that's why I fell in love with it. And that's what I did for a living for 26 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. I can see it in your eyes, man. You really love journalism.
Yeah.
Man.
I ain't faking that. I ain't faking that.
Hey, so did you always have good grades in school?
I mean, I consider myself like slightly above average, but I wasn't like a super genius or nothing in school. I'd make a C from time to time. I had my favorite subjects, right? I was good at writing, so I always liked English and writing subjects, and I was really good at math.
Yeah.
And so I always liked those topics. And where I would struggle with science, struggle in history, because history was about memorizing stuff. And, it wasn't, and I don't want to disparage any teachers of mine because it's probably more on me than on them, but it wasn't interesting to me. It wasn't relevant to me.
Yeah.
Right? It was about stuff that happened a long time ago that doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly.
Now I know better, right? I know that history is everything. History matters, right?
I still have a hard time. Like, I just can't. I don't like old stuff. Like, it's like I'm a relevant type of person. Like, I can't watch old movies. I don't care how much of a classic it was back then. It's not gonna feel the same. It's not gonna look the same. And so I always felt that way about history. Also, like, why should I care about all this stuff that happened way back? Like, I'm more focused. What's going on right now? Teach me what the government is doing right now. What's happening in politics this moment? You know what I'm saying?
So here's the thing I'd say about that is, so much of what's going on right now is because of what happened in history.
And every time we talk, you point that out to me, and I'll be like, wow, man, I never knew that. But it's important.
Well, it is important. And the real, I think, regret is that we didn't have enough people who were willing to make it relevant to us when we were in school, right? I think a lot of times they were checking boxes. They were saying, make sure you know what this was, make the date that this happened. And but why? Yeah. Right? Why does what happened on this date, 150 years ago matter today? And that's connecting those dots is what makes history interesting. Yeah. And I think teachers have to invest in making sure they're connecting those dots for students, so that students their eyes will get bug-eyed open.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the challenge we have with my faith and teaching the Bible is that book is 2,000 years old.
Right.
And making sure that it matters. What's in that book matters to people today. When I talk to them about it.
Right. Sports.
Yeah.
You're a huge basketball guy. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
For sure.
When did you fall in love with basketball?
So we were talking about my folks getting divorced, right? Well, my mom remarried when I think I was about 10.
Okay.
And your granddaddy, Ronnie, he put up a basketball goal.
Which is still standing, ain't it?
Well, that one is still standing.
Oh, okay.
The first one was when he came over when we were staying with your grandmother. And it was just like a old bicycle rim nailed to a tree or something like that. I mean, it was makeshift.
Yeah.
But he put the ball in the hole, right?
Yeah.
And that got us out there wanting to put the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
And then when they got married and we moved back to the house in Munford, and he went and got a post hole digger and dug a 4-foot hole and got a telephone pole. And
That's what that is?
That's a telephone pole. He put that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a telephone pole that he put in the ground 4 feet deep.
Yeah.
And he got a friend of his to carve out that wood, the shape of a basketball goal.
That's crazy.
A backboard. And he put that backboard on that telephone pole, and it's been there for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is the most solid basketball goal I see. I never knew that was a telephone.
That's a telephone pole.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And when we put that thing up, every kid in the neighborhood came to our house and started playing ball. There were times when that yard had like 30 people in it.
Wow.
And we were playing basketball out there, and we played 3-on-3 or 4-on-4. And we would play till we couldn't see the ball. It would be dark outside, and we were still trying to play ball. Yeah.
Hey, so we have a bunch of the MJ Kobe talks. Was MJ your favorite athlete growing up? Like always?
No. So my initial favorite, the person that I tried to emulate my game after, was Isaiah Thomas. I loved Isaiah Thomas. Zeke was the man, right? And because he wasn't the biggest player, he wasn't dunking over everybody. He was winning by sheer will and just being a dogged competitor, right? And that was me. I related to that because I ain't gonna ever dunk with anybody. But I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna play hard and I'm gonna compete hard. And so I related to that, right? And plus he was kind of flashy, he had handles, nobody could dribble like him, and he could shoot the ball and he'd do trick passes and stuff, no look and stuff like that. So I really gravitated toward him, and I tried to emulate him when I played the game. And I became a point guard and tried to do I never really shot when I was in high school because I had 4 other guys who could really score. And so my job was to get the ball to them, set them up, and I enjoyed doing that. I had fun playing.
That's what's up.
But so it was Isaiah, not MJ. But then it became MJ.
It became MJ later on. Did you ever want to go to college to play ball? Did you ever feel like you was good enough?
I never thought I was good enough. Now looking back at it, I probably could have played at a junior college, but I never went that route. The other part of it is. When I was coming up, when I was getting ready to graduate junior year into my senior year, I just started applying to colleges, right? My parents were pretty adamant I was going to college, but I was the first person in my family who was going to ever graduate from college. And so I didn't know really about the process, and I didn't have a lot of people to guide me, right? And so I'm just applying. I'm sending applications everywhere. And I applied to Alabama. I applied to Auburn. I applied to Alabama State. I applied to Alabama A&M. I applied to Tuskegee. I applied to Huntington. I applied to UAB. I'm telling you, 10, 15 different applications were out there. I got exactly 1 acceptance letter.
What?
1. And that was from Auburn University.
Wow.
That was it. So that's where I was going. I wasn't going on an athletic scholarship. I was going to go to study.
So was Auburn in your heart before then, before they accepted you?
Growing up, my family was an Alabama family. We all rooted for Alabama. And so I had no real strong intentions about going to college at any of them. I just knew I was going to go to college.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm sending out applications everywhere. But yeah, Auburn wasn't at the top of my list at all, but they were the only ones who accepted me.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was that first day like once you finally got there and you started going to college at Auburn? Like, did you feel it from day one? Like, man, I love this place. Like
So it grew on you. Here's why. It's, first of all, the campus is beautiful.
It is. It still is.
Beautiful.
And it's even better today than it was even back then because they growing so much.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Half the stuff that was there wasn't there when I was going to school, right? We always joke that we paid for that stuff, right? But the first day, what I remember is my folks dropping me off at the dorm that I was in, and that dorm ain't even there anymore. But they dropped me off at that dorm, and it was kind of split. You have the reception hall in the middle, and on one side is floors with the guys, and on the other side is floors with the girls. And this set of friends, they all would meet in the foyer, in the common area. And my mom had dropped me off, and there were 4 or 5 friends that were there, and they all told my mom. They said, "We got him, we got him." And I'm friends with them to this day. Yeah. Abraham, Rakita, and Hal, and James. Yeah. Those 4, they took me in, and I was good. They made sure I knew where stuff was, how to get to class, made sure I knew where to do my laundry. All the things, right? All the things, because I was brand new, man. I was green.
Did you get a scholarship to Auburn?
No. Wow. No scholarship. Like I said, I was an average student. And so I just knew I was going to college.
I always thought you was like super, super smart in high school.
No, I'm faking it, man. I'm faking it.
No. All these years, all this pressure been on me to like.
No, don't misunderstand.
I'm trying to walk in your footsteps, man.
No, I made good grades, man, and I was studious. But I wasn't what I would consider exceptional. I wasn't that all A person with, a 4.0 plus GPA. Yeah. I wasn't that guy, right? My good grades came from working super hard to, make sure I was ready to take tests and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And again, I had my favorite topics. That I was strong at.
And it's crazy because the same ones you said you didn't care too much for, it was the same exact way for me. Right. Like I would never care for science, never been good at science. Yeah. But I always figured out how to get an A though. I ain't gonna even lie.
Yeah. So here's one other thing I'll add to that about my favorite topic or my favorite subjects in school. I told you was anything related to reading and math. Yeah. So when it came time to choose a major, when I was going into college as a freshman, I was thinking, I'm going to do something math related because I want to make a lot of money and I'm going to retire on an island one day with a big house. That was my thinking, right? Yeah. And so I took up electrical engineering. When I went into Auburn, that was my major initially, was electrical engineering. I was killing it in math. My math grade, I was taking like junior level math by the end of my freshman year because I was just flying through the courses. Couldn't pass physics.
Wow. So
I had taken physics twice and I had made an F, like a low F, both times.
And was you like focused? You was really giving it all?
I'm trying. Yeah. I just didn't get it. Yeah. And, maybe I could try to put some of the blame on the professors who, you got these 200-300 people classes, right? And they're trying to deliver a lecture to these giant classes. And so if you're falling behind, it's hard to catch back up in that atmosphere. So, and I just didn't get it. And so I had flunked physics twice. And I went to talk to my advisor and you about to be out of here. Yeah. You flunk physics again, you're out of school because my GPA, it had dropped my GPA way down. It's like a 1.6 or something. Wow. So I was like, well, what do I do? Because I can't go home without a diploma. Right? Yeah. I can't. And so he said, you got to change your major. And so I said, well, I don't know what I need to change it to. Yeah. And he said, well, what else are you good at? And I said, well, I'm always been a good writer. And he said, well, you should try journalism. I didn't even know what journalism was. I mean, honestly, I'm being honest, because I didn't grow up in a house where they were getting the paper every day and reading the paper. Like, we watched the news, but I didn't really understand what the word journalism, what he was referring to when he said it. But I was staying in school, so I'm like, sign me up. Whatever journalism is, sign me up.
Figure it out.
Yeah. So I started taking the courses. I took JM 101. That's the very basic course of journalism. And it was like a fish to water. Yeah. It was like, this is where I was supposed to be the whole time, right? And when I look back over it, it was God's hand on my life, steering me in that direction, because that's where I should have been in the first place. I made a bad decision chasing money. He made the right decision to put me where my gift is. And so that's why I ended up in journalism. Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever experience racism at Montfort?
Nothing that I would say was blatant racism or anything like that. To be perfectly honest with you, I feel like there were some people who treated me really well when they didn't really have to. Yeah. Like you might not know this, but I think he was still around when you were there, Coach Stevens, who coached basketball.
Yeah.
He had a brother named Earl. Leon Stevens had a brother named Earl. When we started playing, me and your dad started playing Little League baseball, Earl would drive to your grandmother's house and pick us up and take us to practice up at Montfort baseball field and then bring us back home every evening. He didn't have to do that. Yeah. Right? 2 little black boys. Yeah. That he didn't have to have on his, but he did that. Yeah. And he'd bring us up there, man, and it was, the joy of my life, because I love playing baseball. And I played catcher, and I think your dad played third base or something like that. But we wouldn't have been there because we didn't have a way. Yeah. But he'd come and pick us up in his blue pickup truck and take us up there to play ball. So I remember things like that. I don't remember people mistreating me. I remember people treating me well. Right.
And I mean, I know racism is real.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just don't know how real it really is.
I think we too often look for racism.
Yeah.
And I think too often we will, I'll give you an example. I was working at the Anderson Star, and there was this black girl that started working there. She got hired there. And she was also an Auburn graduate. And I remember her pulling me aside one day. And she said, and she was talking about one of the editors, I think she's racist. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I've been working at the Anderson Star for years already. Yeah. When this person was just hired. Yeah. Kathy, the lady she's talking about, was the first person who I met when I came in. And that woman loved me. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I said, and I told her, Kathy ain't racist. She just don't like you. Right?
And that'd be the worst, man.
Well, but the thing is we have to give people room to be individuals. And sometimes it ain't because of the color of your skin. It's because something else there is about you that ain't jiving with that other person. Yeah. That's the case sometimes. Now, again, I'm not discounting racism. That's still a real thing. Yeah. But it ain't always the thing.
But it's some people, it feel like they just can't escape racism. Like they got story after story after story to tell you. And then, it kind of put me in a weird situation, because sometimes, it's like, I just don't, I can't relate. Like, and I don't know, maybe I'm overlooking it. Maybe I'm an optimistic person that have those experiences, but I'm so quick to just brush it off like, oh, maybe this person just ignorant.
Or having a bad day.
Having a bad day, exactly. Yeah. And then I just move on. I don't hold on to negative interactions.
Right. So your life is going to go so much better. You're going to have so much more joy about yourself. Because what you are doing is you're taking ownership of your happiness. Yeah. You're taking ownership of your peace, right? And too often we have people who are so willing to hand their peace to somebody else. Right. And I'm not I'm not doing that. I'm not living my life like that. I'm not letting anybody rob me of my joy and my peace and my stability. That I think is where a lot of the racism claims come into being, is because my life stinks and I got to find somebody to blame. I think that's where people land a lot of times, is instead of taking ownership and saying, you know what, my life stinks, but here's an area where I'm going to start working on it.
Right.
Here's something I'm going to start doing, and I'm going to get consistent about it. And at least that part of my life ain't going to stink. I'm determined that I'm going to take control. But so many people, rather than taking control, it's so much easier to say the man is keeping me down. Right. Yeah. Or the man, if they just pay us reparations, if they just pay us reparations, we'd be fine.
Hold on, though. We need them reparations, man.
Listen.
They give them to everybody else, man. We need them.
If somebody comes and hands me a check, I'm going to take it to the bank.
Right.
Until then, I'm going to get up and go to work every day. My family's livelihood is on me.
Right.
And I own that.
Right.
And I have no problem owning that.
Right.
When you pull up the 116 Heights Way, I'm responsible. From the driveway to the backyard, I'm responsible, and I own that. I'm not looking for anybody to take care of my family.
Right.
Not long as I can breathe. Not long as I can get up on my own 2 feet. I am responsible. Not the government and not some white person I never met. Me. Right? When my kids get up out the bed, or when my kids are growing up and I'm raising them and they come to the refrigerator, they're not saying who put this fruit in here. They know, you know. Yeah. All I'm saying is I take ownership. I take responsibility, because that's what a man is supposed to do. Right. And so I'm not looking for a check from anybody that I didn't earn. I don't need that. And yes, our people were treated horribly, brought to this country, made to build this country, and were enslaved by this country. And even after slavery ended, you have to go through the Jim Crow era, where, you know, we were still being mistreated.
And I think today in 2023, our young generation is under attack through entertainment, through drugs, through the jails. We're still under attack today. So I want to ask you, on the record, are you willing to say right here that, yes, we do deserve reparations? Even if you're not waiting, will you stand on the side of, yes, we deserve it?
Here's where I would fall on that. I would say our ancestors deserve reparations. Right?
Yeah, we are our ancestors, though.
No, we're not. Here's what I mean by that is, our ancestors fought, bled, and died for all of the advantages that we have today, right? When it was just 50 years ago, we couldn't go to school with white people. Our ancestors endured being spit on, endured being rocks thrown at them, and broke those color barriers so that today, I can go to an Auburn University. My kids are legacies at an Auburn University. I got 2 diplomas, one from Reggie, one from Amaya, from Auburn University, because somebody broke the color barrier and endured all the ridicule and endured all the pain so that they could go and get degrees without anybody batting an eye toward that. They don't deserve reparations. The people who went through that deserve reparations. What we deserve is an opportunity. The thing is we ain't fighting for that. We ain't taking advantage of our opportunities. We want reparations. We want somebody to hand us something. When our ancestors have provided the one thing that they didn't have is an opportunity, and we won't take the opportunity. How disappointed would Martin Luther King be today if he could see young men walking around with their pants hanging off their butt, and the first lump sum of money they get, they go and spend it on some speakers and some rims?
That's a small percentage of us, though.
Is it?
I think it is. I think that's the percentage that we choose to focus on
No.
when we want to make this point of, why we're in the position that we're in. I feel like people are quick to point to the lowest of the low.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Fair. Okay.
And even them, we could argue that their circumstances play a big part of why they even are the way they are. You know what I'm saying?
So I agree with you, right? To a degree, I agree with you that where you are born, in the condition that you're in, the household that you come up in,
plays a huge
part, right? However, I just told you about where I was born and the house I came up in, right? Yeah. I didn't come from, a silver spoon in my mouth, right? But I had parents who emphasized education. You get an education, you could open your own doors.
And even you were the first.
I was the first in my family.
You were
yes,
the first.
on my mom's side. The first on my mom's side to get a degree, and it has opened up doors. So the thing that I think we don't value enough is an education, not a lump sum of money. A lump sum of money can be gone, right? I remember, growing up, or not growing up, but working in Anniston, and there was this lawsuit against the company for polluting the environment. And the lawsuit was a class action lawsuit. The company lost. A bunch of people got a bunch of money handed to them. Mm-hmm. A year later, they couldn't tell you where that money was, right? And so my point with that is money don't last. Money don't go as far as you think it does. Education can't be taken from you. Education continues to open doors throughout your lifetime. That's the thing that we ought to be emphasizing versus reparations, right? And that's just my viewpoint of it.
Yeah, I respect that.
And again, I'm not like against it. I'm just saying you won't catch me in the street marching for reparations. You won't catch me.
But it's just crazy because I just feel like, just like you said, our ancestors got spit on and they fought for this. And it's like, we don't want to fight for what we deserve or what they deserve.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's up to, just like they fought for what we do today, we should be fighting to get what we would deserve from them.
Yeah. And the problem I have with that, and it's not a major problem. I'm not like, how dare you?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is they're the ones who went through it, not me.
Yeah.
And for me, like your great grandmother, my grandmother, left school in the 10th grade to go to work picking cotton. Right.
Wow.
She went through things that I have never gone through and never will go through. And so for me to get $10,000 off her pain, for me, just me, this is just me speaking, it's an insult to her to say, here's how much what you went through was worth. What dollar amount are you going to put on that? That's where I come down on it, right?
Yeah.
And what I feel like a little bit is it robs them of their dignity. It robs them of their pain, of what they actually went through. We're going to say, oh, that was worth $50,000. I'll take $50,000 for that. No, I never went through any of it, but I'm going to say that's what it was worth. I'm going to take $50,000. Yeah. Give me my check.
Yeah.
You just cheapened what they went through. You've cheapened their legacy. You've cheapened the pain of what they went through. What I say is keep your money. Give me my freedom. That's all I want. I want my freedom to make my own decisions and own my own space, right? Now my possibilities are endless. Mm-hmm. It can go way beyond whatever a check can give me, right? That's what they were fighting for, not a check.
So what you saying? You saying freedom from debt?
I'm talking about freedom to make my own choices, freedom to go to the schools I want to go to, freedom to live in the neighborhoods I want to live in. If I can afford that house, don't redline me out of that neighborhood because of the color of my skin. That's what I mean by freedom, right? Freedom to go out and cast a vote that means just as much as the vote of my neighbor across the street. Right. Our ancestors didn't have that. That's what they were fighting for. And we got people today. We got people today who won't get out the bed on election day if it's raining and go to the polls and vote. That's what they died for. That's what they bled for. Have you ever seen footage of the Edmund Pettus Bridge crossing? Right down here in Alabama, in Selma.
Oh, yeah.
John Lewis almost had his brains beaten out by law enforcement. People who are supposed to be enforcing the law almost killed this man in broad daylight because he walked across a bridge for voting rights. Wow. And now we won't get out the bed and go cast a vote on election day. But we want a reparation check. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yes, I definitely. I want to push back against it, but you're making a good point though, and I don't want to try to, like, you know what I'm saying. But the only thing is, like, man, when you talk about voting, it's a mockery and it's a slap on the face. The type of people that they try to put up and say choose between.
Run.
You know what I'm saying?
Run. I'd vote for you. Run. Because I agree with you. I don't like the choices either, right? So I just said it today.
It just made me question the whole system. Like, it's a mockery. It's not.
The system deserves to be questioned. It does.
So
right?
That's why it's like it's hard when people try to use voting as a responsibility, because it's like, man, how is that a responsibility? It's a joke. It's a joke. You want me to participate in the joke? Even Martin Luther King, when he died, he died saying that, man, I don't know if I made the right decision. Like, I don't know if we were supposed to be mixed in with these folks. Like, I probably should have left. He did say that before he died. Or, you know what I'm talking about. I ain't saying the exact words, but you know what I'm talking about.
What I would say is, I agree that we have bad choices, right? But a lot of that is because we have let the system devolve into something that respectable people don't want to be a part of, right? People who are worthy of our votes, they exist. People who are worthy of the office, who would do an excellent job, they exist. They don't want to go through the rigmarole of having to run, having to raise money, having a campaign, having to sit through these debates where you run through the mud and your family's attacked and your history's dragged up and lies are made up. They don't want to deal with that. So there are respectable people who are worthy of that. But when you talk about the system being broken, that's how I see it being broken. Is nobody want the people with common decency don't want to participate in it.
So that leads me to believe that it's something that we're not supposed to be a part of, that the true power comes from us removing ourselves from it altogether. Think about it. America is ran off of the black influence. And if we want change, let's just remove ourselves.
I don't quite disagree with you, but here's where I challenge you, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't just say remove ourselves from it. I would say move ourselves towards something, right?
Something,
but here's the problem is, name me one thing that we're unified over.
Nothing.
We can't even get.
They keep us divided, though. That's part of the system.
Don't give me that they stuff. Don't give me they.
It's reality.
Don't give me they. Because they is a nebulous figure that you can dump everything on. Don't give me they. Take responsibility for your own actions.
You're right. I don't want to keep saying they, but they exist. They are controlling our food. They are controlling what we learn in our schools. They controlling.
Slow down. Take it one at a time and break down what you're talking about when you say they. And how are they impacting you in a way that hampers your life on a ant level? What did they do to you that's keeping you from doing anything?
Okay, I have experienced the vaccines. I have experienced being a part of, like, the food. Like, I don't even like the public school system. Like, we can start with that. That's a way.
What about it?
What they teach us, how they teach us our history. How they treat our children in the schools, what they feed our children, the schedule that they train our kids from day one to get on, the 8 to 3 schedule that forces us to get up at a certain time, that's training your mind to be a part of a work system and put up with that. And then in high school, you got the pipeline. You know what I'm saying? You either going drugs, jail, or the work pipeline, you know what I'm saying? Go work 40, 50 years of your life. You know what I'm saying? and they got the college route. You go to college and you're $40,000-$50,000 in debt that you're going to be paying back the rest of your life with no guarantee that you're going to get a good job anywhere. And even if you get that job, you're still going to have to struggle to pay your bills. Like all of these different avenues, like, I mean, and then and stuff that I didn't even experience, but then you got the projects. You got, the medical system. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
deep. I don't know you know this exists.
Oh, look, listen, you're talking to somebody
Taking the
who's-
father out the home, the food stamp system, the
Yeah.
child support system. Like it's all of this is a huge system that us as Black people, yes, you made it through. You made it through, but it's a lot of people
But so here
that didn't.
Let's try and go through maybe one or two of the things that you pointed out, because everything you've identified, none of it is specific to Black people. Everything that, like the public school system, there ain't just Black people in the public school system, right? And so
But this hit us thousands of times harder because we coming out of slavery. You just said 50 years ago,
Absolutely.
we couldn't even be in the same room with these
Absolutely.
folks.
Absolutely.
So now we coming from that, fighting through all that trauma, just trying to get our mind out of that mind state to actually elevate, to even be on a level playing field with white people. And then it's like you got all this other stuff that I just named that we got to fight through even after that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So what I would say is, I don't disagree with you about the residual impacts of the unequal treatment. I don't disagree with you about that. I agree with you. I agree that there's residual impacts that have come down through the generations because of what has happened in the past, right? What I always point to is education, right? So 50 years ago, we couldn't go to those schools. And so we were receiving a lesser education. And this is why we even have an HBCU system, is because we had to create colleges specifically for Black people because we couldn't go to white schools. Right. So when you look at what we call institutional wealth or generational wealth, you have a white person who, can inherit land, who can inherit, a finance, businesses, who can inherit, who even have like legacy positions at colleges, because not just your mom and dad and your grandparents, but your great grandparents and your great great grandparents went to this school, right? When our great great grandparents couldn't even go to school, it was illegal for us to learn to read.
Yeah, they in the field.
Right. And so, yes, there is a real dichotomy there. There is a real difference there between the two. I get that. What I would say is that when it comes to getting an education, those barriers, by and large, aren't there anymore. Right. My generation, starting with my generation after your grandmother, because your grandmother, I don't know if you know this, she went to elementary school in a segregated school. Like the elementary school, Ophelia, that was the Black high school.
Yeah, I knew that.
And Munford High used to just be the white high school.
Yep.
And so those two schools were segregated. And then they desegregated them, and one became the elementary school and the other became the high school. Right. I didn't deal with that. I didn't have to go to a segregated school, right? But because college was not a real option for my grandmother, not a real option for my mom, by the time it became a real option for me, we are just now in the 70s starting to move toward college. Right. Then I graduate from college in 93, and then now in 1993 becomes the first opportunity for there to be a legacy after me, right? And then, like you pointed out, there's the whole debt issue, right? and trying to accumulate wealth is a challenge. And so maybe there will be some 401k money that I could leave to my kids, right? But it'll be the first. That's our starting point.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so here's all I'm saying. I don't disagree with you about all those things. What I'm saying is I'm not going to let it be an excuse.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let it keep me when I talk about my circumstances, the last word I'm going to use is they.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to
agree.
let they determine how I end up.
But even to be able to say that is a privilege, because a lot of people can't say that.
I'm not privileged. I worked, right? Privilege comes from having things handed to you.
Yeah, right.
Privilege comes from being born with status.
Right.
I got none of that. My name means spit outside of Mumford, right? But I had to build that, right? And I built that because I had those people behind me, one, pushing me, but also setting a standard, saying, yeah, your jeans don't cost what their jeans cost, but you go pull them up and wear them right.
Yeah.
And they go be ironed, and they're not going to be wrinkled. They're going to have a crease in them, right? You go take pride in who you are and what you got, even if it ain't what everybody else has, right? And so I've never been given the opportunity or even taught to make excuses for myself or to blame somebody else for my circumstances and my position in life. I got to take ownership of it, and I got to push to get to where I want to go. And you can't get to where you want to go if you don't set some kind of goal for yourself. You got to have a goal to get to the goal. And so they are powerless for me.
Yeah,
They're powerless.
Yeah.
They got nothing on me. They can't control me. They don't have any influence over what goes on in my home. They don't have any influence over how I perform at my job, which is how I get paid, which is how I take care of my family and do the things I want to do and make a difference in my community. I just refuse to give they any kind of power over me.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you was talking to the Black community, that'd be your main message. Like, stop making excuses. Stop blaming other people.
Take ownership of your station in life.
And you feel like we can turn this thing around.
Here's the thing is we need to stop trying to save the culture or save the world or save our people. If I save me, then I've made stride in the war. And so that's what I think we have to do is we have to be better individuals before we can be a better community.
Right.
And then we become a better community. We become a better society.
Is that a distraction? The them thing, the protest,
I
the
think
marching. Is it a distraction?
I think it's a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out. Is as long as I can point the finger to something else that's responsible for where I am, then I don't have to take responsibility. And so we keep coming up with they and them. And getting out there in the street with signs and we go change the world. And the world ain't changing. And meanwhile, you still stuck where you are.
Yeah.
Point the finger back at you. Take power over your own life. Take control. Don't give they any power over you.
Yeah.
Just don't. Right? And you have, even if the world continues to fall apart, at least your situation and your circle is going to be better off because you took responsibility.
Right.
And raise up your children the same way. Don't give them the opportunity to let somebody else have power over them.
And I'm still trying to figure out like how to keep pushing my family forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still questioning whether the public school system is a good thing.
It's a fair question.
I know education is big, you know what I'm saying? I just want them to know what they're going for, because that's one of my mistakes. I felt like, I was pushed on, you smart, go to school. And the whole time I didn't have enough time to figure out who I was or what I needed to be doing.
It was clearly God,
yeah,
his hand on me and moving me in that direction. And so I am. You're right. I'm thankful.
Yeah.
Right. But
for me, I lost a lot of money in college, man, because I never figured it out, and I felt like hey, this ain't the route. I need to do something different. I gotta, this it's a different route that I need to take to make sure my family is took care of right now.
I hear you. Here's the only thing I'll say about that is I don't know what your major should have been, or because sometimes that's what the issue is finding what that thing is that drives you, that thing that you are gifted at, that thing that's gonna make you. And so now there's a whole industry for what you're doing.
Where's college? Like, I didn't know what college class is this in.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
They have those now though. But my point is, what I regret for you is not getting that paper. That paper lends credibility, right? You are no different today than you would be if you had gotten that paper. The difference is that paper says to other people that there's something special about you, and it validates that specialness, right? I can go and tell, the CEO of some big company all day long, man, this is my nephew. He's good people. He's smart. He's gonna get the job done. He's all of that and a bag of chips. He's the one you're looking for. I can do that all of that. They'll brush me off. That piece of paper, they're like, how soon can we get him here?
Yeah.
Right? And that's all I'm saying is that paper it lends credibility. In fact, it lends so much credibility that if you pretend that you got it and you didn't, it lands you in more trouble than if you actually had it, right? There's a congressman out of New York that just lost his job because he faked his resume and was talking about all of these credentials he had that he actually didn't have. And the reason it was such a big deal is because those credentials matter to people.
Right.
They matter. And that's my only regret with you. I love you, man. I'm so proud of you. But that paper, I know. And the thing is it ain't because, I think you would be so much better off doing something. I mean, it's not that at all. It's that I know you got it in you. I know you could have finished. I know you could have finished.
And I hated too because I know I could have too, man.
Yeah. There's nothing that they could have thrown at you that you couldn't handle. I know that. And I just want the people who would try to measure you and judge you to know that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to convey that without the paper.
Right.
That's all.
So I got one more question, and it's a big one.
Okay.
One I want to ask you for a long time. You're seen as, I don't know if you know it, but you're seen as the most successful person in our family. Do you feel that that's what you represent to our family?
So what I would say is, I'm sorry. What I would say is I think it's a perception because of the visibility, right? But I don't see myself as being, above and beyond anybody else in my family. I'm just amongst my family.
Right.
And I think my family is special. Right. I do. I just think my family is special, mostly because of what our parents and grandparents poured into us and how they set high expectations for us. And so we want to set high expectations for you guys. And part of my motivation has been, first of all, I wanted to make my dads proud of me, right? My biological father and my stepfather, I wanted to make them proud of me because I respected those men. I just saw what they, how hard they worked on their jobs, and then the way they poured into us as kids, setting, an example for us and trying to do whatever they could to protect us and provide for us, right. Just being men in our lives. And so my initial motivation had always been, I want to make those men proud of me. I want to be a man who they look at and say, I did that, right? Yeah. Of late, my motivation has shifted to you guys. I want to be a man that you guys look to and say, I want to be like him. And I want to live a life that's worthy of you all looking at me that way, right? Reggie and Darian, you and Cedric, that's how I want y'all to look at me. And with Amaya and Zakia also, as young ladies, I want them to see the type of man that they would want in their life, right? And my faith is a huge part of that. And I wanna walk out my faith in a very visible way that lets you guys see that it's okay to follow Christ. You don't have to be a monk and live under a rock, or isolate yourself and be boring. And you don't have to do that to follow Christ. You can follow Christ and still have fun. You can still be your genuine self and love the Lord and bring everything that's you, genuinely you, to the table, but still trust him and follow him and live your life in a way that honors him, and watch him set you apart. Watch him cause you to shine amongst your peers. Watch him bless you in ways that you know you're not even deserving of, right? That's the example I want to set for you guys. I want y'all to see that in me, and I want to be that authentically. I'm not faking it when I tell y'all I love God. I'm not faking it when I tell y'all he's the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm not faking it when I say I lived 30 years of my life my way, and I've lived the last 23 years of my life his way. His way is better. His way is way better, right? Yeah. And that's genuine, that's real, that's authentic. And I'm not hiding the first 30 years from you. I'll talk to you about it as much as you want to, right? Yeah. But I want you to know about the last 23 years and how he's completely just transformed where I was headed, transformed what I was becoming, transformed what I wanted to be, right? I got a purpose. Now, I didn't know what my purpose was those first 30 years. I thought I was just here. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. As long as I take care of them and keep the bills paid, I'm good, right? Yeah. And but there's so much more to that. And my life has meaning and has purpose because I'm living it for him. And I know that whenever the day comes when I come to the end of this life, I know that my purpose will be fulfilled, right? You can't have a fulfilled purpose when you don't know what your purpose is. And that was the first 30 years of my life. I didn't know. And if I had died, it all would have been meaningless. But now I know my purpose, right? And I know that at the end of all this, I will have fulfilled my purpose. If I live to be 2 more days old or 200 more years old. But at the end of all this, I will have served my purpose because I'm serving him, right? And so that's the thing that, you talk about being successful. That's where my success lies. Not in my appearances on TV, not in how much money I make. My success lies in that I'm at peace with my maker. I'm at peace with God. And he gives me joy. He gives me hope, gives me love and happiness. He surrounds me with people. He shows me favor, right? There are so many doors that have opened for me that I have no business walking through. But here I am walking through this door, right? Yeah. God did that. Not some little nappy head boy from Munford. God did that. I don't deserve that. He did that for me, right? But it's because he knows I truly trust him. He knows I truly love him. Even when I don't get it exactly right all the time, he knows I want to. He knows I'm trying to. And I want to live my life in a way that honors him. And I want to be a light, first of all, with my family, but then with my neighbors and my community and the people that I come into contact with at my job. I want to be a light. And so that's that's what motivates me. That's where my real success is surrendering my life to God and trusting that his plans and purpose for me are higher than anything I ever could have come up with.
Man, that seemed like a good stopping point.
Well,
I definitely want to do this again.
Hold on. Let me ask you this. Was that your last question for me?
No, I had more. But it just seemed like a perfect, I'm just going with the energy of the show. It just seemed like a good stopping point.
So,
we just touched on the first 30 years of your life pretty much.
You're right, right.
Which it was one big thing that I still wanted to ask you about. But
what's that? I mean, we don't know when we go do this again. Right?
Yeah, we don't.
So hit me with it, man. Let's take advantage of this of the moment. You edit it however you want to, but I'm just saying you'll have it down if we talk about it now.
Okay. I just want to ask you about a certain situation.
Okay.
I don't know the exact year. I'm pretty sure you probably do. But my dad, your younger brother, tried to commit suicide. And he shot himself. Do you remember where you were when you either got that phone call or just learned that news?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember specifics. I had graduated. And so I was here on this side, working at the Anderson Star, I think. And he was at Auburn. And when I got the phone call, he was there. And I was trying to understand, what was happening, what was going on. And I guess concerned that, he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a shot in the head. So, that was the initial, I guess, reaction to it was, is he going to make it? And then how soon can I get there? You want to get to him. Yeah. Right. And so it's a lot of it's very vague. It's been like 30 years, 25, 30 years now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to remember a lot of the specifics. To this day, we've not talked a lot. Really? Yeah, not a lot. I mean, I know what happened, right? But not a lot of conversation around the why, right? I remember, when it started to look like, okay, he's gonna pull through this, right? And then the having to go through therapy because he didn't have use of one of his arms.
Yeah.
And had to go through therapy to get fingers moving, arms moving, those kind of things. And I think still there's some dexterity issues with the use of his left arm. So, I guess the way I tried to handle it was to let it be his story to tell. Try to respect his privacy and the fact that it's his story, let it be his, responsibility to share it with who he wanted to share it with or not.
Right.
And to let him, come to me with it, because I guess at the end of the day, I was just thankful to still have my brother.
Facts.
Right.
Right.
And so I didn't want to, press the issue and, make it more than it was. Some of that was, I think, in response to my own situation, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew this, but when I was in high school, I did that too. I tried to commit suicide.
No.
Yeah.
Why?
It was.
Do you remember why?
Oh yeah. It's clear. I was dating this girl and she broke up with me. And, what I was what I thought was mature and really deep into this relationship, had wrapped myself up into this relationship, and didn't realize that, she was being a girlfriend. She wasn't trying to be a wife. She wasn't planning the rest of her life around our dating, at that point. And I was at that place. I was like, this is the girl I'm gonna marry. We go get a house together. We go, I was like, just gaga, I guess. But, when we broke up, I was heartbroken and, basically thinking, this is my answer to that. And so, yeah, I like found like my mom's medications or something at the house and just took a bunch of pills and stuff and went to sleep. And that I didn't go to school that day, and that's when I did it. I just let the bus go by, and I stayed home and I did that. And my mom came home and found me what looked like asleep. And I was unresponsive, and she couldn't get me to wake up. And she took me to the hospital, and they revived me and pumped my stomach and got all the drugs out my system. And, like I went home the same day. Yeah. I didn't even have to, I don't think I stayed a night in the hospital. That was my situation. And so I didn't, I know how sensitive that is. And so I didn't want to, press your dad on that situation. But also I try to use my experience to talk to teenagers today about those thoughts, those, entertaining those ideation around suicide, because I know we can let things blow up in our minds.
Yes,
we can make small things big things, and we can make things that are a problem today that won't be a problem tomorrow. Right. But we won't wait till tomorrow. We'll try and end it today. And so I try to use those. I actually have a card that I designed, and that card has a list of Bible verses of encouragement that, if you're in a low place like that, you can go and read these scriptures, and it'll encourage you, and it'll let you know how valuable you are to God. Mm-hmm. Right. When you look at John 3:16, for instance, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Right. What that verse is actually saying is God, the God, our creator, the God of the universe, gave his one and only son for you. Right? Right. Not everybody. For you. And what he's saying, the statement he's making, is that you are so valuable to him that he's willing to give his son for you. That's how valuable your life is. And so when I talk to young people, especially teenagers, I try to get them to understand that their life is precious. So precious that God would send his son to die. So precious that his son would willingly give his life for you. So that's the value of our life. In the eyes of God, each of us is as precious to him as Jesus himself. So we have to get our minds wrapped around how precious we are, how valuable our life is, how much we mean in this existence, right? And so then you don't throw it away over something that's temporary, because no matter what it is that we're dealing with in this life, it's temporary. If you live a few more days, you'll see that thing ain't as bad as I thought it was, right? Yeah. But in especially our teenage minds, we'll let those things just blow up.
It feels like the biggest thing in the world.
Right. I failed this test. It's over. That's it. I'm out of here. Right. Yeah. That test you gonna be okay. You can take that test again. Right. It's not the end of the world. But so yeah, that experience is, something that I try to use. It was one, I look back on it, I reflect on it and see it was really stupid. It was really a jacked up way of thinking about things at the time. But I also know that it's a common thing. It's way more common than we talk about, than we realize. And so I try to, share my experience with young people and be transparent that way, but also, encourage them to understand how valuable they are.
Right.
Yeah.
I always want to know how you felt about that, because I know that was something, like, I couldn't imagine, like, just being a big brother, period. I just couldn't imagine dealing with something like that. And that's something I never spoke to you about. Right. Know. I never knew how you reacted or just.
And, I'm fine with you bringing it up, but I never initiate conversations about it.
Yeah.
I never do. Because, again, I feel like it's his story.
Right.
And if he wants to share something about it, he will. And so I try to just respect his privacy that way. And I'm thankful to still have him. That's the thing.
Thanks. Me too.
So can I shoot? Did you have another question?
No. What's up?
So I watched episodes. Now, I didn't watch all of it, but episode 17. Right? There was a piece of that.
You about to ask me something about 17. I know it's crazy.
No, it ain't too crazy, but it is something that I'm curious about, right? So there was this exchange between you and Pig, and he was talking about how y'all are y'all own people, and how you've always been a person who held close to your beliefs and believe in God and never been ashamed of that and all those things, right?
Facts.
But then you said,
people will listen to our last episode and actually thought that I don't believe in God.
No.
Like, what are y'all listening to? Like,
nigga, you've never changed. You've never changed your morals, principles, and beliefs. You've always been who you are, bro. You've always been who you are.
They don't think there's any difference between us, and they don't think I'm a believer, right? Let me ask you, why do you think that is?
I don't think I don't think that light shine for real. You know what I'm saying? The light that's supposed to shine when you walking with God, mine is a little dim.
Why would people on your podcast know that?
Probably because I don't want to say I agree with a lot of Pig's point of views, but I do relate to a lot of stuff he say. And the difference between me and him is I feel like I actually had a firsthand experience of the Christian experience. You know what I'm saying? Like I experienced that whole thing firsthand. And I just feel like I came out on the other end with a lot of questions, a lot of trauma, a lot of uncertainty. You know, it is a lot of good that I gained from growing up in the church. Cause I mean, I know how to be a respectable person. I know the difference between right and wrong. I do pray. I do talk to God. But it's just certain things about Christianity that I'm unsure about.
Fair. You know, there are a lot of things about the faith that, and I don't know if you notice, I don't always refer to it as Christianity. And the reason is because people have different connotations of just the word itself, and what it means different things to different people. For me, I identify myself as a follower of Christ, right? And that's supposed to be what Christianity means,
right? But
people don't always translate it that way. They don't always connote that when they think about Christianity. So I describe myself as a follower of Christ. And I think where some of the disconnect is when people draw their understanding about it from church or from a preacher or from their experiences with other people of faith, right? And so what I try to point out is that don't base your understanding of Christ off people. I think so often young people haven't had any type of introduction to Christ. They've had an introduction to Christianity. And so Christianity can turn you off. Christianity can make you bitter. Christianity can make you confused. Christianity can drive you away.
Christians can do all that too.
Sure. And so but this isn't new. Yeah. There are old sayings about, don't blame Christ for his representatives. Right. Yeah. But that's a real thing because we're fallible. We're fallen. We fall short. We are imperfect. And so when you look at me, you're not seeing Christ. You're seeing somebody who's trying his best to follow Christ. Right. And so don't base your relationship with him on what you see in me. Base your relationship with him on what you see in him. And I think that's the thing that, that's the kind of conversation I want to have with Pigg, because I listen to some of the podcasts and I believe that he's had some really bad experiences, right? But I don't think he's had any experiences with Jesus. And I think that's where we get robbed of a real relationship with the person of Christ, right? I want to challenge you on something. You said that maybe the people who watch the podcast don't know that you're a believer.
Yeah. Do you get that from watching me on camera?
Oh yeah.
You think you feel that I'm a believer, or do you think I'm not?
No, I wouldn't know that you believed in God. So here's the thing, right? We've been on for 2 hours, hour and a half.
Yeah.
You haven't cursed once. Once, right? But when I listen to episode 17, I got to keep my finger on the beat button. Right? So what that tells me, right? The Bible says, how can you bless me with the same mouth that you curse with? Salt water and fresh water don't flow in the same stream. That's what the Bible says, right? So I'm saying this, I'm just challenging you a little bit, because I had this conversation with a guy that I play basketball with. And when the guys are around, it's F-bomb this, B that, MF this, and just on. But when just me and him talking, he never does that, right? So what it says to me is other people are influencing you. Other people are your main influence, right? Your main character, your main drive is based on other people. What is your own identity, right? Because what you're doing is you're basing your identity on who you're around. Who's the real you? That's what I'm saying is, what I choose to do is allow myself to be influenced by Christ, the person of Christ, the life of Christ, right? So no matter who I'm around, you can cuss all day, right? So I don't know if you know this. I used to curse bad. Mm-hmm. You've heard my rap.
On the record.
Yeah, you've heard my rap tapes, right? Yeah. So it was pretty awful. But when I was in college, man, my nickname was a cuss word. That's how bad I curse. I used to curse all the time.
Which one?
No, you ain't got to say. Not trouble you.
Yeah, you got to say that.
But when I got saved, that was one of the first things I stopped doing. The reason is because I always knew I had control over it. I didn't cuss like that in front of my mama. I always had control over it. I was doing it because everybody else was doing it. And so when I got saved, I just stopped doing it. And so now I can have a 2-hour conversation, right?
Yeah.
Online without ever cursing.
Yeah.
Right. And when people hear my speech, they know who I am. They know what I stand for. Right. And I'm not going to do anything out of my mouth to violate that. Right. And I'm going to let my light shine because I'm not ashamed of it. When I was doing my thing up until the age of 30, I wasn't ashamed of that. Yeah. So why should I be ashamed of being on the right path? Why should I be ashamed of following the most righteous person who ever walked the face of the earth? Why should I be ashamed of that? So I'm going to let my light shine. I don't care who knows I follow Christ. Right? And I don't mind claiming it. And that's all. I'm just challenging you a little bit.
Like, what is a cuss word? I mean, it's still just a word. It's just in entertainment, you know, and I guess even with music throughout the years, I just got caught up in the thing of like cussing is just a form of expressing yourself. I'm expressing a strong feeling about whatever I'm discussing at the time.
Consciously, that's what it is. You're right. Subconsciously, you know better. And here's why I say that is because you've been expressing yourself strongly the last hour and a half. And you haven't cursed once.
Strong? I don't think it's been pretty strong.
Well, when we talked about reparations.
yeah.
Right. But that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Bring all of you to the table.
Yeah.
But you can express yourself without those words, right?
So that's a big thing to you? Like,
Well,
do you like in your mind when you hear somebody talking like that?
Here's why. Here's why, right? It's a big thing to me for those who claim to be Christians, for those who claim to love Christ, right? Because what it is about, cursing will not send you to hell. It won't. But it ruins your testimony. When you say you have people who don't know you're a Christian, maybe it's because your podcast is full of F-bombs, right? And they know Christians don't act like that. Not true Christians, not real Christians who are following Christ, right? And so I'm just challenging you a little bit.
Hold on, wait, Uncle. All Christians don't act like that, though.
So
that now we're going right back to the beginning. Christians do what they want until they apply to. They gotta look at themselves, but they judge everybody else.
Here's where I'm going to draw the line. Right, it's what we started with a second ago. What do you mean by Christian? And so there are people who call themselves Christians because they go to church. That don't make you a Christian. There are people who call themselves Christians because they got baptized when they were 8 years old. That don't make you a Christian. Right? What makes you a Christian is how I identify myself. What did I say? I'm a follower of Christ. Right. That's what I am. Right? You can take Christian and blot it up and throw it out the window. Right? Yeah. I'm a follower of Christ. Not all Christians are going to heaven. Every follower of Christ is going to heaven. That's the difference. And so, yeah, you got some hypocrites out there who will judge you for the same stuff that they do in the dark. Right? But that ain't me. I'm not going to judge you. I'll even tell you, you won't go to hell for cursing. You won't, right? But what you'll do is you'll ruin your testimony and you'll keep your light from shining. How many people could you be reaching through your podcast by being a Christian on a podcast with somebody who openly says, I'm not a believer? You talk about me being an example and being the person that, you look to. That's what I want to leave you with more than anything is that be for real about your walk with Christ, because there's way more that hinges on it than likes on Facebook. Right. What hinges on this is your eternity. What hinges on this is your soul, right? Right. It's the difference between heaven and hell. We can fake it like some of those Christians, or we can actually be for real and walk the walk and talk the talk and let our light shine. And then at the end of all this, go peacefully with a smile on our face, knowing that the next thing we go see is the face of our Savior. Right. That's my destiny. No matter how all of this wraps up, I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go be with Jesus. Right? Right. Or you can be somebody who fakes it and try to have the credentials and get some shine in front of people and get some pats on the back and get Christian labels slapped on you, right? Yeah. And then die and go to hell at the end of all this. I want all of my family in heaven with me. All of them, right? That's where I come down on it. I can't fake this. Yeah. I can't, and I refuse to fake it. I would own my shortcomings and my failings, but I promise you, I'm trying to get it right. Yeah. I'm trying to do this thing the right way, and I'm trying to follow Christ. Yeah. Right. So that was what I wanted to challenge you about.
Man, I appreciate that. I respect that. That's real. I'm gonna deal with that later on in the mirror.
Well, the other thing, I tell you this all the time, is whenever you have doubts, questions, curiosity, hit me up. right?
Yeah. Man, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes you seem like a impossible person to replicate. Like it seemed like yes, you do hold people accountable, and that's the one thing I feel like, especially in our family. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes it's just like, man, it's when I walk out that door in a minute and I go back into the real world, like it's different out there, man.
So listen, it is different out there, which is why people like that is needed, right? Yeah. There needs to be some light out there. There's a lot of darkness. There's way too much darkness. There's not enough light. We need light out there, man. We need people being the real, genuine thing. Actual followers of Christ. We need that. This world needs that. And so be a light, man. Be a light.
Science.
Yeah.
Michael Eric Dyson, he made a comment one time, and he was like speaking on how the Christian or the church community fights so hard against science when all science wants to do is be able to support what the church community is saying. And the more support that you get from science, then that's going to make the Christian or the church community's beliefs more solid. But because there's no support to add to it, you know, it's like, so it's always a disconnect between the two.
Yeah. So there's, I'd say 30 years ago, that might have been true. But theologians are much more educated around those topics because they have to be, because your generation forces it, right? Your generation ain't like mine.
Yeah, right? We just don't believe anything. We want facts.
Right. When we were coming up, our folks told us, you know, just believe, just read the Bible, just trust the Lord. Yeah. And we did, right?
And is that a bad thing or a good thing?
Well, it's not a bad thing, except for you don't know how to defend what you believe, right? And that's the problem, is we have too many people who say they love Christ, and when you start to get to a level lower than that, they're lost. Yeah. They can't tell you anything. And so we are trying to equip believers at my church to be able to answer questions beyond just trusting Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about the science piece, I love that science affirms the Bible. Archaeologists go out and dig up relics, and they find the things that the Bible talks about. It affirms the Bible. Astrologers get powerful microscopes and look out into space and affirm the things that the Bible says, right? Starting with verse 1, right? So when you take science, every legitimate scientist will tell you that this universe, it had a beginning. Mm-hmm. It wasn't always here. It had a beginning.
Right.
Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Yeah. Right? That's affirmation, right? And so you now have our existence boiled down to two philosophies. Either you believe that God made everything, or you believe nothing made everything. Those are the only two options. God made it or nothing made it. Which one makes the most sense?
But I think they go hand in hand, though. That's the argument that Michael Eric Dyson was trying to, like, they go hand in hand. Like, I feel like a lot of preachers be trying to attack science, though.
No. What preachers attack, because I'm guilty of this too, is we attack scientists who will use science to try and discredit the Bible. And most of the time, they are using more faith than we are. Yeah. That's what they're doing. And that's the thing, is they won't admit that for instance, they'll say the planet is 6 billion years old.
How do you know that?
Where you get that number from?
Yeah.
6 billion. Why not 6 billion and one?
Yeah.
Right? Where you get that number from?
Yeah.
And the reason is because they're using faith. And so what they do, and if you got a second, because I want to blow your mind with something. they will say that we have an extremely old earth. But if you read the Bible, you can get about 10,000 years from Genesis to Revelation. If you follow the timeline of the Bible, it's around 10,000 years. And so when I hear billions, I start rolling my eyes.
Yeah.
Right. But here's why. Here's why I think the science, what they are finding in science, why they go with billions of years versus what the Bible says. The Bible says that God created man on the 6th day, day 6. So that's Adam. And the Bible says on day 7, he rested, right? Adam was created on day 6. On day 7, how old was he?
One day, I
Yeah,
guess.
you can say that. It's simple, man.
I wanted to.
Right? Here's the thing, though.
But I think God time is different. That's what I was gonna say. But go ahead. I'll let you finish what you was gonna say.
Okay. Yeah, but to answer that just briefly, 24 hours is 24 hours.
I don't think so. I think God is way bigger than us.
Yeah, he is. But
So
here's the thing. He's outside of time.
Yeah.
When he created time, though, when he created the earth, he created it in time. And so what happens in time is consistent with what he created. And when he said the evening and the morning was the first day, that's the
time,
same as it
yeah.
is right now. The evening and the morning is 24 hours. That's a day, right?
Yeah.
So on day 7, Adam is 1 day old. What does he look like?
I guess I always pictured him looking like a full blown man. Like
Because that's what God created, was a full grown man.
Yeah.
Right? Because he also created a full grown woman, and then they had children.
Yeah.
They were not infants. Right? So if he created a full grown man that was 1 day old, then he can create a fully developed earth and universe that's 1 day old. You with me? Right. And so when they are seeing that, when they're digging up dirt and pulling up roots and artifacts and all that, and that's 6 billion years old. No. What they're doing is they're looking at a creation that God made that had maturity on day 1. And so don't give me 6 billion years when you can't prove 6 billion years. You don't know 6. Nobody was around 6 billion years ago.
Right.
Here's the other thing. The earth, we got a leap year, right? Every 4 years, we add a day to February.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because the earth is actually slowing down, right? It started at a certain speed, and from the day it started, it's been slowing down as it spins on the axis. That's science. I'm not making that up. That's science. The earth is slowing down. So that means when it started, it was going faster than it is today, incrementally, just a little bit faster than it is today.
Yeah.
If it started 6 billion years ago, it was spinning like a top.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been able to hold. We'd have been holding on to trees. Right?
Yeah.
And it's simple. It's funny, but it's simple
But it's
logic.
right, yeah.
It's simple logic if you actually apply science to what the scientists are saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Bible makes way more sense than evolution. Way more sense. The Bible makes way more sense than the Big Bang Theory. Way more sense. Right? But the Big Bang Theory and evolution are not science, it's scientists. Right? So that's what we're wrestling against, is scientists, not actual science.
Okay.
Right. So that's the clarification that I want to make about that, because I'm big on that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I teach that at church. Right?
I thought I was gonna get you with that one, man. I ain't gonna even lie.
Hit me with another.
Let me see if I got one more before we get out of here.
Okay.
Scientist. Do you ever watch the History Channel? Have you ever seen Age of Aliens?
No, I've seen it. I've seen it on. I've never sat and watched it.
Okay.
So you want to ask me about aliens? Whether I believe in aliens? Is that the question?
What are they?
Well, so the speculation is that there are beings from other planets that are coming here and land there.
So are they in God's plan? Are they in his vision? Or are they just some outside stuff that ain't got nothing to do with what he got going on?
So here's where I come down on. It's basically one of two places. One is there are no aliens.
That's
kind of where I come down on, is there are no aliens. The other thing is there are these strange sightings of things that we can identify, but I don't believe that it came from it's a life form from another planet.
Yeah.
Right. Because all the evidence that we've ever been able to gather is that there is not another planet that can sustain life. Right. When this is what's so awesome about science when you talk about the Bible. Mm-hmm. When you look at the earth and the position of the earth, if we were a mile further away from the sun,
be too cold,
we'd freeze to death. There would not be life on this planet. If we were a mile closer to the sun, we'd burn up. We'd be toast. We'd all be ashes.
Yeah.
So God perfectly positioned us right where we are in the solar system so that we could have seasons, we could have warmth, we could have cool, we could have dormancy with the plant life, and we could have fervency with the plant life. And it would rotate in. We are perfectly positioned in the universe to have life. No other planet is. And so that's why I doubt.
It's like they want to try to give everything credit but God. They want to find every reason why, it's not possible. It got to be something else.
Right. So if your existence depends on there not being a God, that's your philosophy, and you live your life by there being no God, then you're going to do everything you can to defend that philosophy.
Right.
Right. And so that's where they're coming. And bring it.
Yeah.
Right. That's where I come down on it. But I believe what the Bible says about where we came from.
One last question.
Okay.
I keep saying that. I'm for real this time.
It's cool.
My bad, Stefan. Hey, but why don't you push the lost books of the Bible? Why don't preachers try to incorporate them more?
Apocrypha, right? That's what those are called, the Apocrypha. These are books that were left out. These books were left out intentionally. Here's the better way to think about that, right? The theologians and scholars who put those 66 books together and formed the Bible, they were not picking and choosing. I know that's what a lot of people think. That's how we think about it. Is they're picking this book and they're leaving that one out. That's not what they're doing. What they're saying is God has spoken, and there is a consistency when God speaks. God speaks in prophecy, and then those prophecies come to pass. God speaks through men, and those men write those things down, right? And there is a consistency in how God presents himself. Now, we understand that that's the standard. Now, which books fit that standard? And let's put all the books in there that fit that standard. But if it don't fit this standard of God speaking, then we can't include it, right?
You really think that's what they said?
Oh, no, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly how it happened. And so the 66 books we have of the Bible are the 66 books that are consistent with God speaking, right? And so when you look at those books and you'd see that there are 350 prophecies in the Old Testament about Jesus.
Before he was even thought of.
I got to do this because this is so powerful. This is Isaiah chapter 53. And I want to read this because the actual words are so powerful. It says, who's believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground, he didn't have an impressive form or majesty that he should look like, that we should look at him, no appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of suffering who knew what sickness was. He was like someone who people turned away from. He was despised and we didn't value him. Yet he himself bore our sicknesses and he carried our pains. But we in turn regarded him stricken, struck down by God and afflicted. But he was pierced because of our rebellion. He was crushed because of our iniquities. Punishment for our peace was on him, and we are healed by his wounds. We all went astray like sheep. We all have turned to our own way, and the Lord has punished him for the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb led to the slaughter, and like a sheep silent before her shearers, he did not open his mouth. He was taken away because of the oppression and the judgment, and who considered his fate? For he was cut off from the land of the living, and he was struck because of my people's rebellion. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, but he was with a rich man at his death, because he had done no violence and had not spoken deceitfully. Yet the Lord was pleased to crush him severely. When you make him a guilt offering, he will see his seed and he will prolong his days, and by his hand the Lord's pleasure will be accomplished. Who is that talking about? Who does that sound like? Jesus.
And that was
He's
before
pierced
he
for
was
our transgression.
Yeah.
This was written 750 years before Christ was born.
Wow.
No other book is like this book. And you
That's
can't just
crazy.
throw anything in here.
Yeah.
It has to be stuff like that that deserves to be in this book. Right.
Right.
So those apocryphal books, you can learn stuff from them. And I've read some of them, right?
Oh, you read some? You ain't read all of them?
No, I haven't read all of them, but I've read like the Gospel according to.
So, are they all gospels according to a different person?
No,
or?
it's different. It's different books. Like,
Oh, okay.
one is by
Because I heard of the book of Enoch. Is it?
Enoch. That's what I was trying to think of. Enoch. I read Enoch. I read that one. There's one by Judah about Judas. Judas read. There's a gospel according to Judas. There is one, I think, by Mary. Just different books like that, right? And I read a couple of them. Again, they're interesting. There is like some extra biblical things that you can pick up on from them.
Yeah.
But I can't trust them because they're not a part of the original 66. And the reason they're not a part of the original 66 is because not only do they contradict the 66 books, but sometimes you can read and they'll contradict themselves. That book will have contradictions within itself.
Yeah.
And so God is not going to contradict himself. So that lets you know right away that didn't come from God. So the 66 books that are here are books that are consistently truthful and prophetic and demonstrate that they came from God himself. And so they didn't decide which books were going to be there. They just understood what the standard was. And they said, okay, these are the books that fit that standard.
Right.
And that's what we got to go with.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. I always want to know that, man. I always want to ask you that too.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man. Hey,
Yeah,
I really, really appreciate this,
man.
man. Like, great conversation.
I'm appreciative again of the platform. I hope that genuineness comes through.
Yes.
I'm not. I don't want to be like super saved or nothing like that. Like some people come off. I'm just a
man.
dude.
We
I'm
talked
just a
an
dude.
hour and a half, and it wasn't even about really about the Bible for real. So,
Right.
like, man, I think this was a good way for people to learn and hear more of how you became who you are today. And I want to do this again because it's still we definitely got to do the episode on Let's Be Clear. But
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
everything led me here right now, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad everything came together, and
It was touch and go for a minute.
yeah, it was.
But
Anthony
we're in a
Cook.
good place. Yeah.
Anthony Cook, Pastor
Anthony
Anthony
Cook.
Cook.
Anthony Cook.
Anthony Cook. I'm gonna ask you one more question.
All right.
I know a lot of the times I don't probably carry myself how I should. You know what I'm saying? But overall, how do you feel like I represent the Anthony Cook name? Like, do you think I hold it down?
No.
I know a lot of times you probably be like, why nephew do that? Or why you say that? Or you know what I'm saying?
No. Look, what I appreciate is I listen to the podcast and I hear intelligence, I hear thoughtfulness, I hear insight, I hear camaraderie, I hear fun. All the things that I think a young, healthy, well-adjusted young man should be today. If people don't know you're a family man, and your oldest, I practically took her from y'all the first year or two.
I told her I was interviewing you today. She wanted to come.
Oh, really?
I know they're going to be excited to watch this.
Well, and I just, I see that seed didn't fall far from the tree, right? She's super intelligent. Some people say she's been here before, man, because that girl, she is something else.
Yeah.
But she's just so intelligent, so brilliant. Her mind is like a steel trap. Yeah. If you tell her something, you better follow through with it. all the things, right? Yeah. But that's you and Nell in her, and I am thankful that you are the man you are. That you let me do your wedding. Yeah. Right. That was an honor for me, right?
Yeah,
to marry y'all. And because it's what I think is needed more than anything today is young Black men willing to be husbands and fathers. We got a lot of fathers, a lot of baby daddies running around.
Right.
But commit, right?
Right.
And owning your responsibility and getting a house. Man, I'm so proud of you about getting your house and taking care of your family and being a man. You won't see the true fruit of your labor for like 20 years when you look at your children starting to raise families of their own. Yeah. And they'll look at you as the example of what they're supposed to be, right? So keep being that example for them, right? Our young Black women need that more than the young Black men, because young Black women need to understand that you have to set a standard for that Black man to live up to. That's where the real power is. And if all our Black women got on the same page, our young Black men would straighten up tomorrow. Facts. Yes, sir. So, yeah, I'm proud of you, man.
I appreciate that. And hey, regardless, I'm always learning, and I'm always striving to be a better version of myself. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you being an example and holding me accountable, and even doing it right here today on camera. So,
For sure.
I love this conversation, and I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to say or just put out there before we get out of here?
No, man. I'm just again thankful for the platform, thankful for the opportunity, and invite anybody, if you want to learn more about who I am or more importantly, who Christ is, hit me up. Always glad to do that. And you can put my number on screen if you want to. Half the state got it anyway.
Stefan, man, what up, man? You got anything you want to say before we get out of here, man? Appreciate you again for coming.
You've been really patient with us, man.
I'm good.
Hey, you don't never turn your mic up, man. You mic number 3. Oh, I can't even hear you, man. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, he's in there a little bit.
Yeah.
He ain't strong.
I got to turn it up. You can hear me now?
Nope. I don't know what's going on with your mic, man.
I don't know either.
Hey, but
it's cool.
We hear you though, and we appreciate you for coming out. And hey, I love you, man.
Love you too, bro. All right, man.